Hello and welcome to a special edition of Quick News TV. I'm Zac Rantz and I'm here with Dr. Kevin Kopp, our Executive Director of Elementary Education, to go over a new thing coming to Nixa Public Schools, standards-based grading. Check out this video that we've done to kind of help you understand what's wrong with current grading and why we're moving to the standards-based grading system.
Let's pretend our principals are students, and we will demonstrate some issues with traditional grading. Let's look at student 1, Liz. Liz struggled at the beginning of the quarter. She's a hard worker and continued to improve, showing excellent improvement on the final unit test. Let's look at student 2, Josh. Josh began the quarter poorly, but he gained interest and finished strong with a solid understanding of the material. But Josh has difficult time sitting still. He's out of his seat often, bothering students on the way to the pencil sharpener. He begins work at school, but never finishes homework at home. Let's look at student 3, Kara. Kara missed school frequently during the quarter, but performed very well on the final test. She is quiet and shy, but also very disorganized. Student 4 is Jennifer. Jennifer performed well during all of her practice activities, but bombed the final assessment. She's very popular with her peers, but is very hard on herself. She often feels like she does not understand the material. She is rarely a behavior issue. Our last student is April. April knows how to work the system. She is even willing to cheat to get answers on homework. So she receives all those homework points, but she rarely passes final assessments. Now comes time for grade cards. It's obvious that these 5 students all have different strengths and things to improve, but the frightening thing, in the traditional system of grading, these 5 students could have all received a C. That's right, a C, which does nothing to tell us what they know or what they can do or how they're developing with their behaviors and social growth. We hope that standards-based grading will improve on these things.
Kevin, thanks for joining us today. We're really excited to kind of go over this to help explain things to parents and kind of give them a better idea of what's coming to Nixa Public Schools. So first off, let's get started with, we talked about standards-based grading. So first, what are standards?
Sure. Standards are basically expectations or goals that have been set by the state. And those goals are what we hope children to know and to learn by the time they leave a particular grade level.
Okay. And are standards new in education?
Standards are not new to education. They've been around now for a long time. When I like to think of standards, if I could use this analogy, like the framework to a house. Okay. They provide the support to that house, but how we finish the house is really dependent on the teachers, on the educators, on the principals, and our curriculum in terms of how we teach our kids to know those standards.
I mentioned standards-based grading kind of in the introduction. What exactly is standards-based grading?
Standards-based grading is just what the title kind of says. Basically, we're grading students according to those particular standards. I think in the past, we would give grade cards and parents and students would see a grade over one subject, a whole subject, reading, math. Well, what standards-based grading will do is it'll allow us to be a little more specific to see how students are doing with a particular standard.
Okay, so then how would standard-based grading, how would that be different than what we're currently doing?
Good question, Zach. Standards-based grading will be different in that right now our students in grades 2nd through 6th grade receive letter grades like we've always received, like I've received as a child, like many of our parents have received. And so the transition will be moving away from those letter grades and the 100-point scale to a system where we're using numbers, 1, 2, or 3, to show if students truly understand a particular standard. So again, we won't be looking at one subject area, a whole subject area. We'll be looking at particular specific things that will give the student, give the parent more information as how their child is developing. The other great part about standards-based grading is that it will separate behaviors and social development from the actual academic performance. Many times within that big grade, some students would have been rewarded for maybe turning in assignments, participation points, those sort of things. Those are good behaviors, but they don't necessarily show us if the student really understands and is really able to do the specific goal or learning target. If you boil it down to its most basic form, standards-based grading will give a lot more information to our parents so that they'll know where their child is at and also how to help their child. And not just for the parents, but for the student as well. So the student really understands, okay, here's where I'm at. What do I need to do to improve? What are my strengths? It should give us more information to help with our decisions that we need to make to help our kids learn.
Cool. So you mentioned that they're going to get like a 3-2-1 instead of like an ABC and in a whole host of areas. What is the grade card going to look like? Is it going to be bigger? Is it going to have a lot more information? Like, just kind of explain that so parents will know.
Sure. The grade card will be a little bit bigger. I think in the past we've had one page. Well, now there will be actually a front and back, 2 pages, and so 4 total pages of information.
Okay.
Again, giving our parents and our students a lot more specific feedback as far as how their child is doing.
So really what our goal as a district then is to really help educate parents on those specific areas that their student is either meeting or not meeting and needs help with, and so we can give those specific targeted areas of assistance to students rather than kind of an overreaching arc to meet everybody's needs. We can actually start to target in on the specific things that students need help with.
Absolutely. You think about most jobs today. Most jobs today, you are not graded on a 100-point scale given an A, B, C, D, or F as far as how you're doing. You're typically told you either meet expectations or you don't meet. And so what we will be doing is giving information to our parents and our students that show they've got this standard. They know it, they're able to do it, or they're able to do it but with assistance, or they're just not able to do this standard and we need to keep working on it. So hopefully this will give really our kids and our, more of a real world, real life experience as far as how evaluation works.
Great.
Our kids should really have a better understanding of the specific standard, the specific area that they may be struggling with, but just not struggling with, also the specific standard or area that is a strength and a gifting for that student, which helps the student grow and build off of. And so that information will hopefully help our kids be a lot more invested in their learning, will be more motivated because they know what they're doing well and what they need to improve on. What we've found is that letter grades do not motivate kids. Good letter grades maybe motivate a little bit, but what research is showing us is that bad letter grades, such as D's and F's, actually demotivate kids and separate them away from the curriculum, away from what the teacher's trying to do, so much so that many kids, and I don't blame them, just give up because they see how hard they have to work just to get a C. They quit and they give up. What we need them to do is not quit, not give up, and see what they need to do to understand the expectation, to understand the learning target, the learning objective. Once they've got it, awesome, and we go on to the next one.
So as a district and then as for parents, what can we do to help our students prepare for the coming change in like grade cards and to standards-based grading?
Sure. I think one of the best things we can do as parents is really communicate with our kids and communicate with the school. Check those backpacks. Touch base with the teacher. Talk to the principal if you have questions. But really ask your child how things are going. We're going to do what we can on our part to communicate out what those standards are. We will have on our website under the Parent tab our standards listed under curriculum. And so parents can see what we're learning, what we're working on. But also we will be sending home per quarter information as far as what we're learning as well. And so I really encourage parents to communicate with the teacher, to keep checking those newsletters and check backpacks and stay up to date. And we will also do our part to communicate with them as far as what standards we're teaching. The number one thing we can do though is just keep checking in with their kids. How are things going? What's going well? What do you think is an area that you could use some help on? The more we talk with our kids, the more we keep those lines of communication open, the better.
Great. Well, thank you for tuning in to another edition of Quick News TV. We hope this has been an informative video for you. If you have any questions, make sure you check with your student's principal, and they'll be glad to explain this a little bit more as we get into the process. We know there's going to be a lot of questions, so feel free to ask, and we'll be glad to help you out with anything that you have. So thank you very much. I'm Zac Rantz for Quick News TV.